All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Omnic Lab. This is episode 178. This week, we have a brand new guest to the show from all the way in the Netherlands. We are making the Bermuda Triangle, triangulating time zones this week. We got the number one streamer for the show, Enz. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing fine. How are you?
Great, great. And as per usual, we also have Andres, and a nice sunny morning in Georgia. What's up, Andres?
What's up? What's up? Yeah, you're right. We're definitely triangulating the world today. We got you in Japan. We got Ends in the Netherlands, and me over here, NA, EU, and Asia. We got it all covered.
Yeah, we're only missing Canada. No, I'm just kidding. But my name's Rob, and joining me are my lovely guests here and co-host. But today, Enz is to give you a little bit brief introduction before we get into some quick announcements and an interview. Enz is known for high tier play as a Grandmaster level player. He has also hit multiple top 500 finishes on the ladder and has achieved GM on all three of the different roles in the new system. So we thought it would be really cool. We don't really get a whole lot of EU guests, so I've been really kind of scouring YouTube videos and some maybe lesser known streamers and some highlight streams to find ends. But I'm really excited that he's here today to talk about tanks, especially on the back of this brand new barrier change and then a brand new season that launched literally yesterday for us in the North America region. Andres and I got a chance to first crack at it with a 6-stack, and it was a lot of fun today doing some placement games. So a quick announcement for you guys out there. As an added reminder, we'll talk about this probably at the end of the show a little bit, but the next game night is every Friday, every last Friday of the month. This month is January, and it is the 31st. This is the first game night of 2020, so make sure you make it out there on a Friday night. And just as an added reminder, on Patreon, if you sign up at the plat level, that's $2.50 per content creation. If you support us at that level, we will do a one-time coaching session for you that month every time you match that support level. But without further ado, let's talk with our guest, Enz. Enz, tell us a little bit about yourself and your stream. Who are you? Where are you from? We got a little bit of that out of the way, but just let us know from your own side of the story. Go for it.
Well, yeah, I'm Enz. I'm 17 years old, and I'm from the Netherlands. Basically, I stream Overwatch a lot. I'm gonna try do it full stream, but I'm still in high school, so I gotta finish that first, which is kind of annoying. But it's whatever. I'll finish that first.
It's worth it. You might as well get it done.
Yeah, and I mostly try to do like in between of educational and just entertainment, because like I'm not the best the best player in the world, so I can't be teaching everybody everything about the game. But for my knowledge, I can teach a lot to lower level players, and I also try to keep it entertaining just by being myself and try to make the best of it, and not try to force it too much, because that doesn't really work.
Oh yeah, especially with Overwatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started playing the game in like around season 5, which was like at the end
It's
of
pretty early.
Yeah, around like 2017, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have a main game, and a couple of friends with me already started playing Overwatch in the beta, but
Okay.
I didn't really play it at the start, because the only FPS game I've played before that was Counter-Strike, and I wasn't really that good at it. I got to like the mid-level ranks, but I didn't really like how the game played. It's kind of slow-paced. Then I played Overwatch for a while. It was kind of fun, but I started out in plat, and I did okay. But I started as an extreme flex. I didn't really have a role, and it took me like until season 14, 13 until I actually knew I wanted to play off tank mostly. That's just because I learn very fast. I can play every role, in my opinion, on like at least GM level, except for hit scan. But yeah, that's mostly because of my aim, not really my game sense. But
And
yeah,
before Overwatch, had you played any competitive games
n-
of any sort?
no, not really.
Okay, so it's also your first competitive game. So you really took it far.
Yeah.
So if I tune into your stream and you're not playing Overwatch, what other stuff do you like to play?
I don't really play other. I've only played two other games, and that was because of the off season and the last days of comp are like not really the smartest days to play in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I just started playing some old Pokemon games, and sometimes when like I queue DPS, the queues just take way too long, so I play like
Oh
Minecraft
yeah.
or something in queue.
Okay.
But I might do some other stuff in queue. But if I play other games, it's mostly on like Nintendo Switch. But I don't have a capture card, so I
That
can't
was a
stream that.
big pain for me. Yeah, I had to get one shipped
Yeah,
over here that I wanted to get, and it was yeah, it's a pain to set up too. It's not fun, let me tell you.
Come
yeah,
on, Nintendo, we need some streamer friendly switches.
Yeah, pretty much. All right,
yeah.
let's talk a little bit more about Overwatch. What brought you to how did you decide that you wanted to do tank? Because you said that that's what you ended up landing on, but how did you get there?
Yeah, so I started playing Overwatch because of a lot of friends of mine played the game, and it was like the free weekend, so I started playing, and I find it fun. My first main was Junkrat. I don't know
Oh,
why. He
nice.
just
Me too.
it just drew to me.
It's pretty
I'm
fun.
still very good at him, but I just liked how projectile played, and I still do. That's why projectile DPS is like my second role in my eyes. But yeah, because off tank back in the day was like Diva one trick. It was mostly like you need to like a big understanding of the game. You didn't really need like how to play aggressive, but you needed to know how to play on every role, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Because if you know how to play support, you know where the positions of your supports will be, so you know when to peel for them or when to go aggressive with your main tank. Because I also played a lot of main tank. I actually was a main tank before. I got to masters with main tank, and then I got to GM with off tank.
Hmm.
But it's like if you know how every role plays and what their position is and what the play style is different, but if you know how they play in each meta, you know how to follow up on it. And with Diva, you basically you're like the glue that keeps your team together, in my opinion.
That's interesting that you mentioned that because I think that sometimes compared to other roles, the off tank it is a little bit more flexible in that sense, where you have to be paying attention to a little bit of everything that's going on in the battlefield, right?
Yeah,
As a main tank, you're mostly concerned, sometimes with the front line, the other Reinhardt, or what the other Orisa kind of is doing. So you're very focused right there. With the supports, again, you're in the back. You're kind of focused on keeping yourself alive, keeping your front alive. But the off tank does seem to have to kind of like oscillate between both parts, right? It has to be paying attention to the front line, making sure that your right heart's good or whoever's there is good. If the back line gets dove, kind of like babysit them a little bit and make sure they're
yeah,
not dying on you. So yeah, you have to kind of like pay attention to so many facets of the battle.
Especially initially on when you're playing in basically a lot of the era of Diva, I guess you could say, like because Diva was strong for so long in the
yeah,
Yeah.
game. It was like Diva was basically the sixth person on the roster that's like, okay, if crap hits the fan, we still got a Diva. You know what I mean? Like Divas can eat stuff. Diva can bail us out. You can play the mind games with the Diva. You can also be I think off tanks in general, even now, especially with Sigma coming in, like all of the time when you're playing this role, this character this typical role and style has so much flexibility with
yeah,
how teams want to come out and approach how they want to play an off tank, how they want to build a roster can really determine what kind of off tank they're actually looking for, not just like, okay, we need an off tank player, let's sign this person or let's bring on this person. It's like, well, the synergy isn't even always with the one player. Like the diva or the off tank in this example really has to meld well, more so than any other role, with all of the roles together.
yeah,
So now you've been playing a lot of Sigma lately, right? This is kind of since Sigma's launch, you've been grinding a lot of Sigma. So talk to us about
yeah.
that journey and learning a brand new hero right out of the gate
Well,
and loving it.
Sigma didn't really feel like any other hero. It was really weird to me. Like when he also came on the PTR, I had no clue. He was not gonna be a main tank. I knew that from the start. Like he's not gonna be played as a main tank because his shield is just not. a protective one for his entire team. It's like good for like a widow on high ground or one person flanking, or like like a short replacement for Orissa's shield. But it's not like a long term shield like Ryan or Orisa, or like Winston isn't also a shield tank, but he's the aggressor. So yeah, it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
different. But yeah, I started just playing Sigma. I kind of thought either he would be played with Ryan or Orisa. It came out to be Orisa, which okay. I don't really like playing Orisa, but that's fine. So I just started grinding him. I like the way his primary fire worked, like just like playing around with I would call it projectiles because it's not hit scan for sure, but it also has a
Right.
bounce mechanic, so it's kind of 50-50 about it. And then you also need to, you also kind of have to have the brain of a Rhine player, which I was lucky I played main tank, because you need to be good with shield management. At least now
Mm,
you have to be. With the old shield, it was like 1,500. That was like insane. You really didn't need to do anything with that, but
You
set it and
really
forget
especially
do.
it.
especially when kinetic grasp also blocked hook. Like you could do everything with Sigma. You were like, you could make so many plays, flank as hard as you wanted, and barely get punished. But now it's a little different. You have to play him a little different, in my opinion. You can't be hard flanking. You can take off angles for sure, but you can't be flanking
Hmm.
like 1v6 anymore.
Mm-hmm. And to
But
me, it does seem like Sigma is one of the tanks that you really have to be very strategic with your shield, because you can get punished
yeah,
very hard if you're not utilizing the shield correctly. With Reinhardt, at least you have it attached to yourself, so there's no. I mean, the only bad way to use it is if you're not positioned yourself in the right position or you're not facing the right angle. But with
yeah.
Sigma, there's like that margin of error where if you place it in the wrong place, you recall it, and now that you have 3 seconds where or like 2 seconds, I can't remember, where you can't
Yeah,
place it
it's like
again, right?
one.
Okay,
It's
okay,
like one, but it also is like
it's
half
short, but it
second
feels
cost
like
time.
an eternity when you're playing
Yeah,
Sigma and you
it
misplace it.
does. It feels like when Diva just got the Matrix change. It felt like forever.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's a crawling. You're like, oh my
And
god,
that
I'm
was
gonna
in
die.
Goats
Please
meta.
stop.
I did not like that change.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Okay, let's get through. So this is a fun thing that I just added to our some of our interviews, and I want to keep doing this going when we get new streamers or new people on here. But I try to find some fun facts about it, and the first thing I always like to ask the streamers is, what are your like top 3, top 5, top 10 questions that literally every time a new viewer comes in, you're like, all right, I gotta answer these questions. What are they gonna say?
Well, for me, I'm like, I don't know. I haven't heard of anyone else yet, but I'm like the only one-handed player that made it like so high on the leaderboard.
Okay.
But the first thing is how I ended up in this situation. Well, I was born like this, so it's not really different for me. Well, that was like, that's like the most common question. Like, I'm just
Right.
born like this, and I
Hmm.
don't know the details exactly, but
Sure.
I just came out. I just came out like this, and it happened. And
Now we have the audio listeners. So which hand is it for you that you have that's missing?
I miss my right hand.
Okay.
I have my left, which is like honestly an advantage, because like if I were to use my keyboard with my right hand, like I don't know, does anybody use their keyboard with their right hand?
Yeah,
It's like a
I
rare
don't
I
know.
thing.
have seen some left-handed mice up there, but I don't think it's very common for
I don't.
right
No.
hand on the
Yeah,
keyboard.
I guess you could, but you'd have to like really get used to the layout. It would be really weird.
Yeah, because WASD is on the left. Like it's kind
Yeah,
Yeah.
of,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And the way that the keys are like tilted usually in keyboards is kind of like
You'd have to
favoring.
really rebind a lot of stuff all the time.
Yeah,
yeah.
I could see
yeah.
Because
that being a
if
pain.
I saw people, they actually use like the arrows
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
instead,
Yeah.
or they
Oh,
use like
okay.
the numpad or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, yeah, that can work.
But yeah, I don't
I
know.
guess you
But
can find a
also,
way.
yeah, there's always a way. Like look at me. But back in the day, I used to play with like a mini keyboard from Razer. I don't know if you ever
Okay.
heard of it, but
The
it
little
has like,
the little pad thing, the gaming
yeah, a
pads.
keypad. It only has like 20 buttons on it.
Uh-huh.
So, and then you can also have like the space bar on the side, and you can have like, you'll have like a joystick on the side which you can control into 8 directions, and I used that for scrolling and stuff back in the day. But
Oh,
Oh,
sick.
okay.
probably the hardest thing for me was finding a good mouse, because I've switched like a 20 mouse in my entire like years of gaming on PC.
Uh huh.
And I came up with the Logitech G Pro now. It's probably my favorite because it's symmetrical as well. And I don't want to have any buttons in the middle of the mouse because I play like
Mm.
this. If I press, I hold my stump on the middle of the mouse. If I even try and press a button, I'll press the DPI button and I'll go flying.
Oh yeah,
God,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't
If
even.
you
I don't even
if you
want to
try
know what
doing
that
it on
looks
mine,
like.
I'm playing with the G502. If you do that, yeah, it would definitely happen.
Yeah, it's basically like my entire hand covers the thing, and then I press on it, and then yeah, all my DPI just flies everywhere.
Dude,
Yeah.
you need to hit up Logitech and tell them all about your G Pro. That's like the best testimonial.
Yeah.
I wish.
It is.
I wish.
Sponsored material
Send
right
me more
there.
mice, please.
Well, one of them already broke like a year ago.
Unreal.
Call him
Yeah.
up. Tell him
Say,
like,
hey, look,
bro, I need another
I
one.
only got one hand to send this in. Give it to me.
Well, I don't know if you could call it my mistake, but I dropped it on accident and it fell on the tip, and then the left mouse button didn't really work anymore.
Oh no.
That sounds
Like
awful.
it wasn't like I was throwing it; it just fell on like unlucky.
That's unlucky. Yeah.
Or what I also sometimes have when either when I'm too excited or something, when I do a hard flick or something like a 360, I just yeet my mouse all the way to the other side of the room like on purpose because I don't have a grip on the mouse properly. Sometimes I literally yeet it across the room, so then I'm like praying to God it doesn't break.
So I have a random question then because of this. I know that I've actually watched some guy on YouTube named Rocket Jump Ninja that talks about proper technique when you have like specific 3 types of grips, right? But when you're setting up your settings, right? Like I know you said you yeeted it. When you have your sensitivity, do you have to like choose a specific style of play, like with high sends or medium sends or low sends because of this restriction?
Because of me?
Yeah. Like, do you have to have like a high sends, like where you have the for your projectile aim, or
No,
is it different?
No, I actually play like everybody else. I think
Okay.
I have 4,000 EDPI, which is kind of average, I think.
Yeah, that's average.
Which I have like 800 DPI and like 5 in game, I think.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that sounds
And
right.
only
that's
on
normal.
Winston and Ryan, it's like I have like sensitivity 7 or 6 because it's
Just
it's
a
main tank. You
180.
don't like it's actually good for Ryan to have a higher sense.
I have
But
heard
no,
that.
I
Okay.
actually I used to like have different senses for different heroes, but that was like all over the place and it didn't make sense.
Okay.
So my
Yeah,
muscle
that's
memory
probably
just
super
didn't
hard to
work.
get used to. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
So
just
would you say? Oh, go
I
ahead.
just
Sorry.
defaulted it to 4K and I started learning that way.
All right, and you
Like
stuck with it too.
yeah, I think that's the best. Like only like maybe you can change the scope sense because Ash and Widow, for example, have different
Mhm.
properties of how they aim.
Right.
And on as the Widow is same as Widow, I think. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I would stick to one sense and maybe hire it for like main tanks or something, or like Lucio or Mercy, because like those are heroes you need to be checking one like all around you all the time. But
Mm.
with like a hit scan, you could go lower, but I wouldn't do that because
Okay.
it just doesn't do well for your muscle memory at all.
Hmm.
What projectile heroes do you like on the DPS category that you stick
Junkrat,
to?
like I told you.
Good
Uh,
man.
I'd say second is Hanzo for me.
Okay.
Uh, I like Farah as well a lot, but I haven't played her in
Mm.
a while because when I used to play on my team back in the day,
Yeah.
when we would switch to like triple DPS and stuff, I could also play the Sombra, but my Farah was just so nutty. I would just always lock Farah and we would just win all the time. I
Yeah.
also have
Pharaoh
a
with
pretty
triple
decent.
DPS is
I
good.
also have a pretty nasty Doom, but I don't know. I don't know if you count Doom as a projectile. He's like eh.
He
He's kind of in this
himself
weird
is sort of a
category.
projectile. He projectiles himself across the
Yeah,
battlefield.
I was also yeah. I don't know. I like all the projectiles. I was like also very good at Mei and Genji, but I haven't really played them in a while because Hanzo is like super meta right now with like
He
He's
is.
so
a little
strong
bit
right now.
Farah and maybe Junk and Mei of
Okay.
course, but
Yeah, May
I
is
don't
super
know.
meta too. I've been playing
Yeah.
in May nonstop. I'm pretty sure that people are starting to hate me on the ladder around my ranks. Like, oh no, we got the May player again. I've never played May much before, but she's so good right now that
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
kind of in the
play a
same
ton.
category for support. I've just been grinding BAP with
Yeah.
iPlay here, so I'm just like, well, BAP's too strong. It's like, what situation is BAP bad? None. So I'm gonna play him.
He's OP. He's OP actually, but
He's
yeah.
insane. 12 seconds, man. That's all you need.
Yeah,
Every 12
but I
seconds.
also I
OP.
also used to like back on my team when like we were in Masters, like when I first joined like an amateur team. I was like, I joined in like the start of Goats when Brig still had the OP armor and like underneath the shields and like Zen would have like 400 health, whatever. But
Yeah, those were the days.
whenever I could have the chance, like for example, like Li Jiang Control Center, I would just pick Mei because Mei back in like I liked Mei a lot when she was like I don't know, when she wasn't the meta pick, but now that she's a meta pick, it's kind of it's not that fun
Yeah,
anymore to play
back
her.
when she was the hipster pick.
Yeah, but it was also fun sniping fars out of the sky. But yeah,
You can still
but
do
All
that.
right.
yeah, especially now that she doesn't have barely any fall off.
Yeah,
She doesn't
exactly.
actually.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, none. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So when we have guests on, I love to ask this question. But like, if you had one of your friends come up to you and say, "Hey, brand new to the game, what's kind of like your biggest, ease into the game? Like, what are your top two things that you'd probably tell them?" Or if your friend has been playing for a while and they're like, "Look, I'm a bronze silver player. I'm trying to improve. What would you tell me to do like out of the gate?"
Well, I would. The first thing I did, I watched a ton of streamers, like top 500 streamers, and also the first thing I always do when I play a new game, I look up YouTube videos for like tips and tricks, and I think I like bench watched every car queue video when I was like in
Yep.
Yeah, some very good
2017.
ones. Yeah.
So I know all the things on paper, but then you gotta
Right.
also like either VOD review or like just think of your decisions. Like if you died, did you die because your teammates are bots, or did you die because you actually made a stupid decision? Like,
Yeah.
could you have done anything better, or could you ate that grab or whatever? But like, you gotta think of everything. It can't be like, oh, it's my team, because half of the time it's basically you. Like, yes, there are very like I think ranked as like a big gamble of like 50-50 matches, but you have to try. I think my mentality for ranked is always, if I die, the fight is lost. You have to think that you're the hardest carry ever on whatever role. You have to make sure you can have the biggest impact. Like the least impact hero right now is Orisa by far, and you can still have a big impact, in my opinion. Like your poles and bongos can be very impactful in fights.
Yeah, I like that advice because it's very
Hmm.
easy to just blame something else, right? If you, when you're in rank, when you're playing and you get killed, it's very easy to just be like, "Oh, my healers didn't heal me," or "Oh, my Reinhardt didn't put his shield up," or "My team didn't, come support me when I got aggressive."
Yeah,
But
that's
like,
also the thing. You got to think that you're the hard carry, but your teammates are like complete bots. That's always what I think, because if you because I always like 50% of the time I try to make a call for to doing something and it just doesn't work because they either don't listen or they don't know what to do, or you don't get the right pocket or the right shielding. It's like you should play in a way where you don't need that unless you're like duo queuing with someone,
yeah, but
which
you
then
yeah, you should expect that. I agree with you. Like in that
yeah.
sense, like if that does happen to you, rather than blame it in your teammates, just recognize like, hey, I'm in an environment where it's unpredictable, right? Like I can't
Right.
completely rely on a person
Yeah.
that I randomly just got matched up like 2 minutes ago, and you have to kind of like adapt your gameplay accordingly to kind of like make up for those
Hmm.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Hmm. It also is really nice too when you have the pleasant surprise. It's like, oh, this guy in my game, he's not a
When they
bot.
do
I
follow
can,
up, yeah.
pocket them.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
yeah.
okay, let's go, let's go.
Yeah, but that's also kind of the harder part right now for me, because like when I play tank, I think 80% of my matches I queue into like lower ranked games because nobody plays tank. So
Right.
Mm.
I think 80% of the time my other tank is masters, and like the entire team is either GM or masters. I queue in a low ranked lobby or in a high ranked lobby, which is like I think even 10% of the time. But I've had games where it's like full stacked stuff 500 and there's like one diamond and it just doesn't make sense.
Wow.
Like then it's like you can't even blame him. Like he doesn't want to be there as well. Like you shouldn't
It's
blame it
like
on
I
him,
don't want to
but
play.
you have to play
Right.
around him as if he's actually like on that level. Like that's
Sure.
also a thing
Yeah.
of ranked. You have to abuse the system in like how people get matched up, in my opinion. Because
Now
that's
this is
basically
something
if
that is a problem right now, but I will say that the majority of the players that are in the game aren't affected by that. Just to be fair, to
What do
if you're
you
like,
Yeah.
What do you
yeah,
mean by that?
what I mean by that is like
No,
if you're,
sorry. When he was saying that
oh
you have to abuse the system a little bit.
yeah, talk about that.
Yeah, because like if you can see that they have like for example in a lower rank, for example, everybody's like diamond and there's like one gold in the game. For example, it's like the Orisa, which means their anchor. He's gonna make some mistakes. You gotta watch on that. You gotta abuse those mistakes. Like you have to find the weakling. It
Recognizing
sounds
the
kind of
weak
mean.
points. Yeah, no, recognizing the
Yeah,
weak
yeah.
points in the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like,
I th-
if you find those, you can keep abusing that and just farm them basically.
yeah. I mean, I've seen people at any rank do this. Even when I was
Yeah.
in, especially if you're a player that is kind of either coming in to a new rank, right? Like you're going gold into platinum, or you're moving from platinum on the bottom and you're trying to go up. Those type of games are really really good, because even when the screen pops to show you your game, you can say, okay, all these people are not plat and my plat gold game, and these people are gold, so I know I can target those people a little bit more. And then you
Yeah.
can check and say,
Yeah.
okay, what rank are they? Where are they? What heroes are they playing? And how can I focus on, like you said, abusing the system?
Yeah, but I wouldn't do that straight out of the gate, because like
Right.
most of the, because
Sure.
sometimes they can be a smurf or
I was
whatever, and
gonna
they can
Right.
like,
say,
or they can actually not be that bad. But like I don't know
Hmm.
why, but I can see that very fast. If someone makes like a mistake that is not an accident, but it's something they will repeat, like that's something you should abuse. If they make
and
like a one-time mistake, for example, they misclick or something, like that's not abusable.
right, you have to be paying attention to kind of like their base gameplay to see if you can like see some cracks or some stuff that they don't have solidified. Like their Orisa
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
maybe not taking space when she should, or she's shielding at random times when she's not be able to put up pressure, things like that. Or the
Yeah.
Reinhardt is like right in front of the enemy team and fire
Hmm.
striking. I see Anna's, for example, abuse this all the time, where she's like, oh, this Ryan is just fire striking my face, so I'm gonna nade every time he drops his shield to do
Yeah.
Yeah.
it.
Andres, you had the moment when we were playing just the other day when there was a wrecking ball on the enemy team, and every single time he would come straight for the same people and shoot them. And he would always go the same route to come to us, and we're just like, okay. So after he did it 2 times, he did it a third time in a row. We just killed him, and we killed him, and we killed him over and
Yeah.
over and over again. I'm just like,
Mhm.
okay, this
Yeah,
is how
if
you want to
people
play
do
the game,
something
buddy. Then we
yeah, if people do
it.
something repetitive that's easily punishable, like you gotta take notes of that.
Yeah.
Because it's
Mhm.
it's not like an actual like competitive, and okay, ranked is sort of competitive, like it is, but like the way the system is made, I don't think it's at its peak. It could be so much better, but it's not. But yeah, it's not like you're playing in like a tournament or something where people actually like 6v6 try with like a lot of synergy and planning. So it's kind of different in that way.
Right. I love that we're bringing this topic up because this is almost like sometimes the unspoken strategy of Overwatch. Like people talk a lot about meta compositions and like what's a good front line, what's like the characters you should be playing right now. And that's usually the
Mm,
first thing that when you're in a ranked game that people latch onto, right? Like things are not working
mm.
right, and people will be
Yeah.
like, "What do we need to swap?" And I would say 90% of the time no swaps need to be made. What needs to be changed is the way that the game is being approached and being able
Yeah.
to recognize like the things like you said. What are the mistakes that the enemy team is making? What are the openings that we're getting? Because clearly we're not taking them, right? And we're playing into their game and we're getting punished really hard. And sometimes that's not a matter of changing heroes. It's just a matter of changing a playstyle and approach.
Yes.
Mm.
Definitely.
And I would even add to that, Andres, like on top of just the way you're being playing, or the way you're playing the game, can also accentuate some of the heroes that maybe you're not as comfortable on, or maybe not as great at. I mean, even by your own admission, on pretty much any show we've had people on here, as well as Andres and I, saying, I'm not comfortable playing this hero, and they're strong right now. So I either am gonna sit here and learn it and try to learn the things that they're good at, or you're just going to play what you're comfortable with and continue to master that in a meta where they're probably not the top, 1, 2, or 3 picks. That's still a fine way to play the game. As long as you're enjoying it and you're trying to learn, then you won't get into these walls where you're like, I can't understand why I'm not doing well. Because you can do super well on a hero that's not like the best and still perform very well and win games
Yeah,
consistently.
Yeah, I think up to like at least up to like the high ranked games, like actually like 4.5 or higher, the heroes you pick mostly don't matter. It just makes it easier.
Right.
Like for example, if the most meta comp right now, in my opinion, would be like Orisa Sigma still, then Mei Hanzo with like Bab Zen. But you can swap like a couple heroes out for like Mercy and then Pharmacy with Hanzo. But like that is like the most meta comp right now. If you looked at like the breakable barriers, etc., like the
Hmm.
tournament. But you can play a lot. Like I think, but almost every character has its strength, but you gotta know like actually when to swap sometimes because like when you run a comp
Sure.
like if you run like a death ball like a Rein Zarya, say Reaper,
May.
okay, let's say the worst hero, look Torb in that instance, and then like Brig, Lucio, that comp, literally everybody does nothing against long range. Like it's not ideal, but you can still make it work if you play the objective, for example.
Yeah.
But like it just
Right.
makes it easier, which in my opinion, like in ranked, of course, playing the perfect comp is easier to win with, but
Sure.
it's not necessary. But
And
it
and
also
and
depends on the hero. It
And
it
Yeah.
definitely depends on
also,
the
in
hero.
ranked is so unexpected, right? Like you can't expect the perfect composition every time because you're getting matched up with random people that all play different things, and sometimes you don't get Orisa players, or sometimes you don't
Yeah.
get a BAP player, right? So you can't just rely
Mm.
on the meta. Sometimes you have to be a little bit flexible in that sense. Um,
Yeah. Because
uh,
that's also the difference between like ranked, in my opinion, and pro play. Because pro play, they play the perfect heroes on the best way possible. But in ranked, you just have to adapt to the ranked environment and try to make the best of it.
And now I don't want to make this sound just like super easy, right? Like, oh, you just gotta like look at their weaknesses
And you can
and
get a
adapt your
GM.
gameplay, and boom, you're up there.
I,
I think that itself is a skill, and I think that for example, what you said earlier, that you've played a wide variety of roles and you've decided to learn how each role has to play into each other. That gives you a huge overview of the game, and that allows you to recognize those mistakes, right? When the supports are not playing where they should be playing or not using their cooldowns appropriately, it's easy for you to tell that because you've been in that position and you know how valuable those things are. And when people are misusing them, then it clicks in your head quick, right? Like,
yeah.
oh, this person is clearly making a mistake over here, and you know how to approach that and how to punish that. But it does take some time to develop, especially when you're at the lower ranks and you're just kind of getting the hang of what every hero does. The maps, for example, I think that a lot of map knowledge is important to be able to even attempt to punish certain mistakes.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about ranking up again because we talked a little bit about it kind of in general. Let's talk a bit more about role specific stuff. So we talked a lot about the different roles, and you said you have off tank, but in the off tank role, you do have those games where you queue up and you queue up and you queue up, and you can't always play off tank when you get another off tank player with you. One of you is going to have to cave, or both of you are going to be stubborn and you're just going to play a double off tank game and see how it goes.
Zarya Roadhog, my favorite front line of this
Yeah,
season.
I don't really see those kind of comps though at my rank. Everybody,
yeah,
if you have two off tanks, at least one of them is gonna be playing Sigma, and then it's either Wrecking Ball or Rhine because off tank actually translates to Rhine pretty easy in my opinion. So it just depends on the player. But
sure.
I can name some comps that actually still work with two off tanks, but one of them is gonna have to play I don't know Rhine or
Barrier
Ball.
hero
Yeah,
per
but you can
se.
say main tank, but most off tanks can play main tank, and Wrecking Ball is not really a main tank. It's both roles play them.
Okay. So what would you say if someone's trying to grind ladder and working through even in any rank on the off tank? What is some of the biggest things that you learned from your transition into the higher ranks that you kind of held on to as you're still playing now?
Well, first of all, you should have your secondary options because you can't. Yeah, like in ranked, if you want to rank up, especially, you can't be like solo one tricking off tank. Like it's better. It has two positives. Like if you learn how to play main tank, you'll know how to play around them, but you also have a backup if you don't have a main tank. So I would
Hmm.
mostly learn one. I think the most reliable one is Rhine right now. Like Rhine kind of works everywhere. It depends on the map as well, but Rhine is kind of flexible. But
Mhm.
Wrecking Ball is also very good. But I would just say learn one or two other heroes at least, especially like Rhine, either like Rhine or Orisa, because those kind of they kind of don't. But Orisa has a very bunker playstyle, and Rhine has a very aggressive playstyle. But like Winston and Wrecking Ball play very the same, just
Hmm.
different approaches. Like Winston
Mm.
doesn't like pile drive in; he just walks in and jumps out. Wrecking Ball like goes in, uses his E, and rolls out. It's kind of different, but they play the same. So
And I think with Ryan, you build a lot of fundamentals for just main tanking in
shielding,
general and shielding and good positioning in general, taking
yeah.
space because you have no range, right? You have to really rely on good positioning to make Ryan work. So if you can learn Ryan, I think that you really solidify a lot of fundamentals for main tanking.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I would just learn the main tank a little bit, like learn one or two main tanks at least, so you have a backup plan. And otherwise, just play off tanks, but just try to make the best comp out of it on like each map. Because, for example, on Gibraltar, Diva is still very good. On King's Row, Zarya is very good. Hog, it depends on the map really, and if you're really good at him. But if you play a Hog in this meta, you're gonna have to be hard flanking, and then like still be in a spot where you can get out. So
Mm.
just go for one pick and run away. But I don't know. Sigma is so flexible right now. You can almost like you can play him 24/7.
Yeah.
Now, the flavor of the month is still Orisa Sig, which was, I
Yes.
think, what people are saying. Oh, the barriers and it's so oppressive, blah blah blah. And the picks themselves, I don't think have changed much, but I do think that the playstyle around them has changed a little bit. But that being said, I don't think that a lot of people, especially at the lower ranks, have made the transition into this new playstyle. I think that they still see the barriers and they still feel like this huge monuments that they're not gonna be able to move. And sometimes it's almost like peekaboo with a baby. Like they put the barrier and they stop almost shooting at the people who are behind them, and still instead they'll try to find an angle around them. But again, you have Sigma, which can always cover your off angles, and I feel like those barriers never end up breaking. Do you wanna speak a little bit to that and how you're dealing with that at your rank?
Oh, well, I feel like the barriers break very fast. It's just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like Orisa and Sigma both got a buff to their shift ability, which makes it like an easy get out card again. Like Fortify, I don't think that buff needed to be there at all, but that's just
Yeah.
me. Like Fortify is probably one of the strongest abilities in the game for how fast it's on cooldown as well now. So Orisa, if you play it smart, it depends on their comp. Like you can fortify like a tracer, like slow damage or like poke damage, yes. But if it's like a Widowmaker that's damage boosted, headshotting you, you're still gonna die in fortify, or a
Mhm.
Bastion that's still gonna kill you. But Fortify is so strong right now. It's kind of impressive in my opinion. And Sigma Shift, if you like only take in account for like Rodok Hook or Shield Bash, he can block everything. It's kind of like Diva Matrix. It's wait, I think it's the same actually now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
They've made it
basically.
mirror it now.
So
Mhm.
you want to be cycling your shields with your other cooldowns. I think that's like the best way to say it right now because your both their cooldowns are on a shorter cooldown, but their shields are slower, or I mean they have lower health. At least Orisa's one is very bad now.
Mm-hmm.
But
So it's kind
if
of
you
like an on-off switch, right? If your
yeah,
barrier's down, then your kinetic grasp, I think is what it's called, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the fortify is up. So then you use that, and
Also,
then once that's down, then you can switch back to the barriers if it's
if
available.
you just play the correct positions, you can just use a normal like natural cover or like
Hmm.
use lamp, which is basically a better shield. Like if you
That's
put the lamp,
Baptiste's
yeah,
invulnerability. Yeah.
yeah, if you put immortality field on a good corner, you can just use that on a corner, for example, and you'll be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you want to be using the. You can also have Maywall. There's like a ton, like even Maywall. Then you have like four heroes that can cycle sort of a protection.
Hmm.
It does seem also that in order to be breaking these barriers this fast and putting the pressure, I think that the onus is almost on the supports right now. I've seen that a lot of the damage is actually coming in from the Zenyatta and the Baptiste. And sometimes when you don't have those two in your team kind of helping you break the barriers, that then it's when it sometimes feels like they still last for a while. But if you have like the Zen, the Baptiste, and the Hanzo shooting at one, like they
Yeah.
break in
They
like three
melt.
It's gonna
seconds.
break so
Yeah.
fast, especially
Yeah.
with like Amp Matrix. It's gonna melt.
Hmm.
Like Amp Matrix is so oppressive against shields. If Lamp or Immortality Field wasn't in the game, Amp Matrix would be so strong. Like you don't have like shields do not tank that. The only reason it's
No.
still like kind of mediocre. Well, it's still a very good ult, but it's not like the best ult in the game because of Lamp
Yeah.
and Kinetic Grasp because it just eats everything.
Yeah.
Right. But I would say even if it's only the Baptiste behind the Matrix just shooting, that is
It's
usually
enough.
enough to break the
Hmm.
barrier just by himself. Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely the supports are it's almost like the heavy artillery in the back nowadays.
Which
Yeah,
is
it
pretty
is.
interesting because like there's not been a whole lot of metas where this has happened. It's pretty much like when Zenyatta's been strong and played around, Zenyatta's been like a main DPS, you know what I mean? And then you've got BAP. And then we had goats where it was just all about the healing and the armor rather than the damage that you were doing. It was all about the function and the stuns and pretty much all
Well,
the CC
and
plus
the
armor, yeah.
Discord was also very important.
The Discord,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Well,
you get the
Discord's another
specific
factor
target.
to melt people nowadays, especially
Hmm.
with Matrix. Like Rhines will obliterate, will disappear in like 2 seconds when they have like a Discord and the Matrix in front of them.
It essentially negates almost all of the fortify abilities of the Euresis too. So that's I think why Zenyatta's that one big consideration when you don't have the Amp Matrix.
Well, he also is one of the best ults, and it's like you have a lot of protection for Zen. It's not like it's dive where he has to play very defensive. You can play
Right.
very aggressive because there's two shields. There's Mei in the meta. There is
Mm.
Immortality Field. So, and you have Hanzo Sonic Arrow, for example, that can
Yeah.
scout flanks. Like Zen is, I think this is the meta where Zen has like, well, I think Goats was better, but like Zen is probably one of the latest ones to die
Hmm.
in the comp.
Yeah.
I think Goats was like the last, like Diva was the last one, but Zen also never died in Goats
Hmm.
Hmm.
if you played him correctly at least.
Yeah. A lot of comps were kind of critical on his role in the game, depending on the teams and how they were playing him. But yeah. Okay, so we got another thing here about the barriers. We did touch on this through Andres's stuff, but I wanted you to kind of talk a little bit more about kind of just the big change across the board, not just with what's strong right now, but maybe what could be coming next, or what kind of do you foresee as being potential targets for the dev team on the next patch that we might be seeing through this whole meta that we just had with the new barrier changes, at least
Well,
for a short time.
they made it a lot better, and like the game feels a lot faster now because you don't spend a lot of time breaking shields anymore. It's like it's gonna probably die in 2 seconds, so you just shoot the
Mhm.
shields and then you walk forward. So I like that change a lot, and especially that they didn't touch Winston because if they nerfed Bubble, that wouldn't make sense. It's already so big that everybody can shoot it, and it's not like a perfect cover for Winston. So I think the Bubble not touching Bubble is very good. Oh, my entire screen just went black. I got shocked. And
We can still hear you on our end
yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
that's
And
okay.
Ryan didn't get touched that much, like 400, which is not that much out of the 2,000 in my opinion. It's a little bit. You'll
Hmm.
notice it, but it's not like Orisa, where I think Orisa lost like 60% of her shield.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
So you have to be playing around Fortify a lot now.
What do you
But
think of
Hmm.
Ryan's change? Because I think one of the biggest changes for him was the anti-boop, like the boop resistance that
Yeah.
he now has,
yeah,
right? You can't boop him as much anymore. What do you think of that?
I don't get it honestly because he's not gonna like it was only that bad in goats and dive. It wasn't anymore after. So it doesn't really make sense. And also that's why I like my theory on like what they should do with the next patches is just stop buffing heroes in general. Like stop buffing, just don't, because the game is getting power crept so bad that like Hanzo is like the most well-rounded character ever. Like who would have thought of that back in a year, like 2 years
Yeah,
ago?
nobody.
Like Hanzo does actually everything.
There were
But
Hanzo main jokes back in the
yeah, but
day.
I think they should just stop buffing for like at least half a year. And if one of like I think the most broken character right now is Bap with Orisa and Mei. I think they just like what they used to do that back in the day, right? That where they just sledgehammer a character and nerf them into the ground. Like for example, Ana. Like they just
They
slide
power
jammers.
crept her for a long time until
Yeah,
people
but
started realizing she was
I would
OP.
like that again if they just hard nerfed every character that's broken, and then like work them up from the way down, so it doesn't make them too oppressive.
I think
Because I don't like back
sorry,
in the days, like Soldier was good. Soldier was
yeah.
good.
Well, I was just gonna say that there was a Reddit post that kind of caught my attention the other day, pretty recently, where they were talking about how Tracer, as a character, she hasn't been touched very much, but yet she doesn't feel as effective as she used to back in the day. And I don't think it's because Tracer itself is a bad character, but it's because everyone around her has gotten just so much better, right? That like she's just
Yeah.
not that big of a threat anymore when you have like all these ways to defend yourself and immortality field, and Reaper heals himself, he can teleport wherever he wants to now, and Hanzo, like you said, is like super well rounded, he's undivable, he can break shields, he can snipe, he can like you can do everything.
Yeah, well, that's also if you think of it, back in the day, who was like the hardest counter to Tracer was McCree. Like he also got two major buffs in his ult, and it's just like his also his right click, but his like his primary fire just shoots so fast, like as a Tracer, or like Storm Arrow against Tracer. It's like if you miss all of those shots, like then you're just unlucky, honestly. Like for example, if you play Tracer into like May one shots her, McCree one shots her basically, Hanzo one shots her, Zen also, but the Zen Tracer matchup actually got worse for Zen because Tracer got a buff as well.
Yeah.
But if the BAP actually pays attention, like if you immortality field a Zen, Tracer has to shoot at a lamp for a solid 2 seconds. So Zen has 2 seconds to shoot her for free. So
Yeah.
it's like, and she's not that good against shields, but she also got a buff. Like her her primary fire, like her
Her distance.
damage fall off is like
Yeah.
insane right now, honestly.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But
it's
her
really
pulse bomb
good.
is like -50 from like a long time ago. It's like 350 now
They
instead of
reverted that
400.
one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So they brought that back, thankfully.
Yeah, but it's mostly not because Tracer, but yeah, because the entire game got buffed like so
Yeah,
hard that
she's
the
a
game is
great
power
character, and
crept.
people who know how to play her can do amazing things with her. But I feel like she doesn't have as much impact, and that's why she's not like super meta like she used to be, right? Like back in the day, if you were an
Yeah.
amazing Tracer player, you just take over the entire lobby basically.
Yeah, but that's also because like if you look back at the comms, Overwatch started because Ana was like insane. I remember, like her healing was actually insane. But after that, it was Zen, Lucio, Soldier, Tracer. That's not a lot of damage, but it's a lot of mobility.
Yeah.
So that's how you can see how the game changed. And after that, it was three tanks and three supports. At the start, it was actually with Moira. Now that was an insane
Right.
amount of healing.
Yeah.
But after that, it kind of changed. And now the comp right now, Baptiste heals a lot, but Zen still doesn't. So it's more, I think, the damage and the prevention of kills, like with Immortality Field, instead
Hmm.
of the healing.
And not allowing the team to bunker down or really hold a position with the barriers. It puts so much
Yeah.
pressure. You actually have to make him retreat, right? Once the cooldowns are
Yeah.
down, the barriers are down, which happens
Yeah.
fast with that lineup. You can gain the ground finally.
I
Yeah.
still think that Bab's field should be the same cooldown as Mercy because I feel it's kind of like the same category of power.
Like
Like bringing
resurrection.
someone back from the
It's
dead and
actually it's
denying
actually
something is
better.
insane.
It's actually
Yeah.
better because you don't save one person, you can save six people with one ability.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's in a good spot as well, like you can, for example, it cancels Diva
Grab
ult,
dragon.
also Dragon, High
Yeah.
Noon, all
Everything.
those things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But you can
Especially if it's
also,
out of the line of sight, it's even more
yeah,
powerful just from a
yeah.
simple like adjustment on where it is,
But if it is in line of sight, it's a wasted ability.
pretty much.
Yeah. So if you play him the right way, you can abuse his immortality field. If you're playing wrong, then it's just not gonna do anything.
All right, I'm gonna double check real quick how long we're at. Yeah, we're getting close to the hour, so
We're still good.
we got plenty of time. Yeah, we got about 10 more minutes. I don't have anything more written. Andres, do you have any other questions here, or Ends? Do you have anything that you would really like to say for kind of just general swath
Well,
improvements on especially tanks?
yeah, I do have a few questions for Enz actually. Let's
Okay.
talk about Sigma a little bit and the playstyle this season. How have you like been playing him? What have you been paying attention to? Where you think he really shines? Maybe some
Mm.
different playstyles for him.
Well, I haven't played him in season 20 yet, which is like a day old, but
Wow, can't
he
believe it.
just like it's kind of different. I would say you can't really. You used to be able to like shield like a Widow or a Hanzo on high ground and just keep it there because it was like 1500 health. But now, honestly, you have to play more around your Orisa and supports because they can get a lot of value. But if you find a window, try to always like shield someone on high ground because you get so much value. Honestly, like a Baptiste or a Zen that has like free sightlines because of a shield, that's so much damage for free.
Hmm.
But he kind of went from a character that was kind of like this. You could kind of replicate it with Brig because Brig at the start you could do anything you wanted and you wouldn't die because of her insane shield health and her insane healing. Same with Sigma with his insane shield. He still has a lot of damage, but he's less defensive. That's why he's being played because Orisa is extremely defensive and Sigma is extremely offensive. Also a very good ultimate. Sigma's ult is very good.
Hmm.
He
Mm.
got like one nerf to the ult and it didn't do much. It like what did it do? It lasted longer before they dropped or something. I don't remember, but
I
It's
oh no,
think
just
they
so.
slow
dropped
after they get
faster.
dropped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it still lasts for a fair amount of time for
Yeah.
any competent player. Still plenty of time to shoot them up in the sky or finish them off in the ground.
Yeah, I think he just went from like a character where you could do anything you want and barely get punished to you have to play a little smarter, but he's still very oppressive. But that's also more because of Baptiste. He can pickpocket everybody out of a situation with his lamp. But yeah, I would just say play Sigma in a way if you knew how to. Sigma is kind of like I think identical to Zarya in Goats because
Hmm.
Zarya also used to play kind of off angles, but you had to know your limits. That's how
Hmm.
Sigma plays right now because he also does a lot of damage. Like most of the time in ranked, I have gold damage on Sigma because he just does a lot of damage. His because he has bounce, like his bullets bounce instead of just going straight. You have to also another tip, like if you play Sigma, don't focus shields. Try and shoot around it as much as you can.
Hmm.
Like you don't waste your time on shooting shields because you don't even do that much because you have a lot of splash damage. You want to be using the splash damage instead.
The splash damage, I think, is huge, especially if they're grouped
Yeah.
up and you're
Yeah,
just shooting at them. I think that's how you get gold damage right there, because your
yeah,
your orbs now like quadruple in the damage output that they're doing as soon as they're splashing on a bunch of people. And you can build your ult really fast, especially shooting at the mob. What
yeah,
about accretion? I think accretion is such a
Yeah.
it's a high skill ability that is can be so powerful in this meta, and I think it's one of the reasons why dive, for example, can sometimes not be that good against it because a good Sigma with good accretions can be so oppressive.
yeah. Accretion also follows up into a one shot because if you accretion somebody on the ground and then hit them with your primary fire, like two orbs,
Yeah,
like
double
that's a
tap it.
kill on a squishy.
Game over. Yeah.
Yeah. So the biggest tip that I've learned with accretion is that you want to use it defensively and not offensively. Because like I used to shoot it at like shields or try to shoot it in between shields or like try and pre-fire a corner with accretion so you could
Hmm.
maybe hit somebody, but try and honestly just like use it defensively. That's the best tip I could give.
Yeah, when somebody tries to go into your back line or they make the dive
Yeah.
on you, especially for dooms, my favorite thing to do
Yeah.
Yeah.
is when I see them flying at me, I start loading the accretion up. So by the time that they're about to land, you hit him with it, and they never expect it. If you catch a doom with that, they're toast too.
I mostly hit them when they uppercut. Like when they uppercut
Yeah.
you into the air
Oh
with
yeah,
them,
that's
you
a
just
good one
like
too.
angle it a little bit upwards and it hits him right in the head and someone will follow up because they will only have punch after that as a get out escape or maybe ult, but
Yeah.
like let's think he doesn't have ult. He only has his punch to get out. And then he has to also like that's also a thing with accretion. If you hit something in the air, it only it's kind of like he slept because the stun only wears off when you land.
Right.
So when you
So you
when you
basically
when you
you're CC'd until you hit the ground, and then
yeah,
it can
and
it
Yeah,
has to
then it's
it's
stand
gonna
taking
up.
a
then
nap.
you're gonna stand up.
Yeah.
But if you like accretion of Farah midair and she's like above like the void, she's dead.
She's
She
dead.
Oh
can't get up
really?
anymore.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually didn't know that. I guess I
Hmm.
haven't
I have a
shot
clip of
accretion
that.
that many accretions at Ferris.
I have a clip of that when I trialed for a team. I did that in a scrim, and it was pretty funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely send us a link. We'll put it up there in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds great. Yeah, you thought sleep darts on Pharah was PogChamp. Wait till there's a
No,
giant rock heading straight for her
accretion
dome.
is the new one.
Well, it's also harder because it's a big projectile. You have like it also has an
And the
angle
arc is
like
really
a Hanzo,
weird.
It's very
Hanzo
slow
arrow.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
All right, but do
does
you have any
feel
more
good
questions?
when
You
that
play
thing-
way more Sigma than I do, so I'll
I've been
kinda give you the floor,
playing.
man.
I've been playing a ton of Sigma, and I do think he's super strong. Um, I think that my biggest weakness right now with Sigma is underutilizing the kinetic grasp. I think that
Yeah,
I'm I'm still too used to using it defensively, and I think that a lot of good Sigmas, from what I've seen, are using it more as a
I use it
padding
to get in.
almost. Yeah,
I use it to get
exactly.
in all the time. Like if it depends on their comp, but if their Sigma doesn't have rock, for example, if they don't have a hooks or rock or something that can stun you out of it, just walk forward with your shift so your team has free space. But you
Huh.
have to take account like if they have May or something, don't do it because you're gonna get frozen and you're gonna feed in their
Right.
front line. Like
So
it
it's pretty
depends on their comp,
contextual.
but I would use it to push. It's kind of like using Diva Matrix in goats. Like just
I mean,
use
yeah,
it to push in. That's the best way I could say.
because it
And
saves
then
your barriers. Like
yeah, and then
you don't have to set it.
you also go in with like 800 health.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You get so much health, and I have found like with the shield with Sigma, you have to be kind of stingy with it, and like sometimes you want to wait until like the last minute to deploy it because once you deploy it, is there, and like we are talking about it in the beginning of the show, where like it's so punishing if you have to like recall it right away because you won't have it immediately. So what I found is you almost want to hold it until the damage is actually about to come in, and then you kind of like deploy it in front of you. How do you manage your shield?
Well, I mostly just use it to like when you're at like 100 or 200 health, I would use it or try to avoid one shots mostly because if they have a Widow, you can free shield her and she can't do anything against it. Hanzo can break it, but Widow can't do anything against it. But it depends on your comp and how you play it. So honestly, try to be selfish with your shield. And if you see your Orisa without the fortify and no shield, then use it for her.
Hmm.
But mostly just use it for yourself because you're still the one who takes the off angles, not Orisa.
Right. And
You
then
kind of
there's
can use it like both of the stuff from Zarya, right? You kind of have that Zarya mentality of protection of yourself and your
Yeah.
allies with the barrier.
Yeah.
the one thing with the shield too, when the enemy team is playing Ryan, I feel like there does come at that point where you know like, oh, the enemy team has shatter, and that Ryan is gonna just come in and try to shatter me. And like I guess I haven't gotten very used to utilizing the shield. But would you say Sigma is like your dedicated, like Shadow's gonna come, you gotta be ready for it kind of thing, or how do
Yeah.
you deal with it?
Because Sigma has a long cooldown when it's like retreated, but when you like use it, it comes out very
It
fast.
comes out very fast, but you can't use it before. That's the tricky thing about it. It's not like
Yeah.
with Ryan that you can kind of like bait it out, where you can like drop your shield and pretend like
Yeah.
you're baiting it, then like pull it up really fast. With Sigma, you can't do it. If you deploy it to try to bait it out, you're almost screwed because the second you recall it, the Ryan's
Yeah.
gonna be like, "I got you here."
Well, what you can do then is like cast your rock, throw your rock at him. Even if he holds his shield, then you drop your shield immediately. So you have like a small window where he has to hold shield for your stun.
Can you
But-
cast them at the same time, the rock and the shield, or do you have to wait until the rock animation finishes?
Yeah. But the rock has the rock has a flying. How's it called? It still has travel time.
Mm.
So
It's
you
a projectile,
can retreat.
so you have the time between.
Yeah, between and
Impact.
actually hitting the ride. But with Ryan, it's honestly very easy. Like I always block the shatters because if you just listen to the sound cue, it's probably the best. Because like I even saw a clip on like Twitch or something from like Mufin, I think. He just look straight forward. Don't look at the Ryan because Ryan's in ranked act very different when they have shatter than when they don't.
They
Like
do.
if they have shatter, they're gonna walk around or they're gonna just go full through your shield. Like it's very obvious when they have it. So just try and save it and listen to the sound cue mostly.
That I think that's the part I need practice with, reacting to the sound cue right away. Because with Sigma, I feel like that is your job right there. That's like the defining factor. Like you could be doing good the rest of the battle, but if the Rhine is landing a shatter in your entire team, well, you're gonna lose that point no matter what.
Yeah, but also if you play Orisa Rhine, the Rhine, if he wants to get value out of Shatter, like 9 out of 10 times he has to flank with Shatter. So you can easy block it with your shield. But I would just say, like, look at the Rhine's playstyle if he changes it or not. Otherwise, if your Orisa also has a very easy time blocking it with Fortify because it instant casts.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
Orisa's
just
Orisa's usually fine. She can take care of
Yeah.
herself. I'm not worried
Just
about
drops
Yeah.
it
her.
down.
I'm worried about myself and the supports behind me.
well, Bap can jump over it as well
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
if he's
Yeah.
fast enough. And Zen shouldn't even be close to a Rhine. If he Zen can just play across the map and just sit there like, hi, can't shatter me up here.
Yeah, definitely
All right.
depends on
Awesome.
a lot of the situations, but I really like how you broke down the different abilities for kind of the different situations with Sigma, and then also we related that to existing heroes because it's so hard to learn a new hero.
Yeah,
Even though it's been out in the game for a couple months, it's still a long transition period before people fully can start abusing those kits, especially when they're going through all these crazy buffs and nerfs throughout that initial process of them releasing. And now that we have this huge swath of main changes to the whole roster, um, even when we had our other guides, I think where we're talking about Sigma, this one is kind of like you never really know how many guides of Sigma do you want to wait until you feel like it's set, like just one of
honestly,
those type of things.
it's just practice, fail and error, and just like adapt to your mistakes most of the time. Because I learned it mostly from myself because there weren't that many high ranked Sigma players yet.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
I did like what you said that maybe it would be healthy for the game to have a period where things don't get buff anymore. I
Yeah,
think that honestly, we've had the longest period of stability that we have had in the game for a long time, where there's no new hero getting released. I mean, the
yeah. It's been
patch
like
just got
five or
released.
6 months since Sigma got released.
Yeah,
Like that's
exactly.
long.
Yeah, it's very long for like Overwatch, timeline normally. But I think that it's slowly bringing other benefits where like having that same meta leads for experimentation, for people to get used to it, for people to kind of like get to the same level, and then I feel like the playing field starts slowly changing. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, that's the same with goats. Like goats also changed a lot in how it played.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
at the start, for example, they played Moira, then it changed to Zen, and at the start, people would still grab, shatter, bomb all at the same time. After that, I think they only used grab to either kill them if they didn't have a supportal, which most of the time didn't happen, or they would just like grab everyone, let them use trends, and if they grab you, for example, don't use trends and defensive bomb instead. Like there's so many things that
Yeah,
happen.
it gets super nuanced and super detailed, but that only happened because people played goats and everyone was playing goats for like a really long time.
A year. It was
Yeah.
goats was meta for over a year
And
actually.
I'm
And
not
then
saying
before
like
that
we
was
should just
Moth
have
meta
goats
with the
and that was
Mercy.
it. Like honestly, I think this meta is a little bit more diverse than we had in goats. There's a little bit more flexibility in what you can do. You can get away with playing some off picks. Maybe not. I don't
Mm.
know about like the highest level, like when we go to Overwatch League and stuff. It'll probably be a little bit more static. But in general, I think that the game can use this period of stability. I personally have been
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Well, it also depends on like what kind of a goats you mean, because the start of goats, yeah, you can play anything else. Like Diva was still at her strongest. Zarya still had the best right click and like the best beam as well. Like her primary fire also got like smaller, I think.
Hmm.
And like everything got nerfed down the line, but also because Brig was like so strong at the start, that's when you actually couldn't play anything else. Maybe Bastion, but that was it. But
Hmm.
like at the end of Goats, I think that was also very mixed meta because like even like if you in Overwatch League, like Shanghai won in stage 3 instead of like a Goats team.
Yeah, Farah and Sombra were really making
Yeah.
a comeback towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Goats meta, but that was because like I think almost everyone who played tank or support from the ones that were meta really enjoyed that meta because every single character, even Rhine, like shined in its own way, and
Hmm.
nobody was like the weak link all the time. Like for you could never get to Zen. Zen was always safe. Lucio could just wall ride whatever off to Narnia. Brig was kind of okay, but she wouldn't. You will only get punished if you outplayed yourself with positioning. Diva dude, I could sit on high ground forever. Nobody could touch me. And Zarya was like the most pocketed hero ever with Ryan.
Zarya's really
So
like goats
you could
meta.
get a,
You just feel
you
like
could
a
get,
god.
like if you played one of those 6 heroes, or maybe Sombra actually had the easiest time ever because nobody would contest her. But that was like the
That's
best
true.
meta.
For ult.
If you either mained one of the 6 people in goats, Pharah, Doom, or Sombra or Ball, dude, you had such a fun time. But if you play Tracer or Genji, that's over.
Or Widow.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Widow was mediocre, I think, in
Yeah,
MML.
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you were
Yeah.
a Widow player, that was the saddest meta for you. You couldn't kill anything.
No, double shield's worse. Double shield's worse. On lamp, it's even worse.
Fair enough.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. All right, guys and girls, I think we're gonna finish up here. This is a good stopping point for all of us. Let's thank a couple people that are helping us make the show. We got those people at patreon.com/Omnic Lab that are supporting us at the highest level, aka our diamond sponsors of the show. We have Luke H. Cypher, who I just had a coaching session with yesterday that went wonderfully.
Nice.
And Shazir and Shepard and Chris Playa, thank you guys so much for supporting us month in and month out at the highest level. We have no new patrons to speak of this week, but it is also relatively close to our previous episode, and we all have these kind of turnover, weird moments, transition with Christmas and New Year's. But we hope you all had an excellent time at game night, as well as our your holidays out there for Christmas and New Year's celebrations. We've got all of the New Year's celebrations kind of out of the way out here in the East with Japan, but then we got Chinese New Year coming up in February. So I hope you guys can enjoy your Year of the Rat stuff coming up. I'm really excited to see what Overwatch does for that event as well. And hopefully we get some new spoiler news for other stuff going on, not just like skins and stuff, maybe new game modes, or if they're gonna nerf Baptiste or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, thanks to those of you that support us on Patreon. Regardless of your support, it helps us make the show. If you're considering wanting to help us out, that's the best way to do it. You can listen to the show, you can throw us a couple chump change over there at Patreon, and we greatly appreciate it. In addition, we don't have any new iTunes reviews, but that's the best thing to do for free for the show besides listening. You can leave those there. We'll read them out in the show. Regardless of your region, we'll get it. And let's go around the mic and tell people where they can find you. So, Enz, we'll start with our guest. Where can people find you online if they want to catch your streams?
Well, they can find me on twitch.tv/ens_OW, which I stream on a lot, except for this week because I have exams. But I'll be streaming a lot next week again. And my Twitter is also ens_OW. I'm gonna do a YouTube in the future, but not yet. I don't have time.
You spell that
Gotta get that studies first.
underscore,
Yes.
right? ENZ_OW. Okay. I
Yeah.
play. Where do you find? Where can we find you?
If you want to find me, you can do so on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games.
And you can find me with the tag Not Rob or Not Rob May on Twitch. Thank you guys so much for joining us on 178. We hope you learned some new tips and tricks with some heroes, especially Sigma. It's kind of still one of those heroes we're still figuring out post barrier changes, but we hope this is a good big lift for you in your next and first 2020 season of Overwatch. We'll see you guys next week. Adios.
Bye.
Bye.